This is Sunny from Endless Vitality, and I'm actually here with Christy Allison, and she is a therapist who works with a lot of people with depression and anxiety mainly. And I'll let her introduce herself. But basically, in this video, what I want to talk about is I just want to talk about depression. I've actually talked about it in a lot of my other videos about some practical ways of how to sort of deal with depression. I feel like, especially in our society, in our community nowadays, a lot of people are suffering through depression and stuff like that. And I could definitely give my 2 cents on how to practically deal with it, just because I've met tons of people and have a lot of experience working with different people. But I actually do have an expert here, so she can like talk about it from her viewpoint as well. So why don't you kind of like introduce yourself, and also talk about like depression, what you think, what causes depression.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Christy Allison. I guess a therapist in training, but I do work with a lot of people with depression and anxiety, and I would say a lot of it has to do with our thought patterns. So a lot of times we always treat our thoughts as being true and what our reality is when it's not actually the case. And if you start to change your thought patterns to be more positive, you actually see such a big change in your life. And me and Sunny can talk more about that.
Yeah, so like the first thing, like she said, is about your thought patterns, right? So let's just keep walking this way, right?
Okay.
So basically, the thing about thought patterns is what a lot of time what we don't realize is that the thoughts that we have, we think that those are our thoughts. We actually take our thoughts for granted, and we start thinking that thoughts are, this is who, or let's just say we actually start thinking that the thoughts are real, when in fact your thoughts are not real. And I'll talk more about that, but I know we're talking about this before, where you talked about how people start believing in their thoughts and they start thinking that it's real, but it's not, right? So like, what would you say, why do people think that, and how to kind of get out of that mindset?
Well, yeah, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of times with depression, something bad will happen, and then a lot of people will take that bad thing that happened and then start having negative thoughts to come from it. So some common ones would be, I'm worthless, I'm a failure, there's no hope for me, things are never going to get better. Those are all very common thoughts that people with depression have. And once those thoughts start to come into your mind, you automatically believe them to be true. And that's where people start to get into deeper depression, is where they can't get out of those thoughts. And what I try to do, not only in my education but also in my experience, is that you want to change like the person's thought pattern, so that they realize that they should challenge their own thoughts and realize that that's not true, that you're a failure, and it's not true that there's no hope. And you just really have to teach the person that you have to like challenge different things, because that's not the reality.
Yeah, exactly. So first thing is, just like she mentioned, that you think that your thoughts are real. Well, it's not. Your thoughts are not real. And also you have to understand where thoughts come from. Thoughts are just basically coming into your field of awareness. And you think that these are your thoughts, but what's happening also is that thoughts could be collective. So you could be in an environment where, let's just say you're in a bad environment where or let's just say you're in an environment where there's a lot of hopelessness. Let's say you're in an inner city or something where there's hopelessness, or there's just a lot of like violence and all that stuff. You're automatically going to have thoughts about like violence or hopelessness or worthlessness, because you're collectively in that environment. So your thoughts are not really yours, it's coming from outside. If you really think about it, I actually tell people a lot this, is that when you are born as no mind, right? You literally had no mind, no thoughts, is because you weren't programmed at the time, and the programming actually started happening after that as you start getting older. So like what your parents told you, what you watched on TV, your teachers, people that you interacted with, your friends, your family, everyone started feeding you certain ideas, opinions, certain things, and then you started building your kind of belief system around that. And then what happened is you start having all these thoughts, and those thoughts are things that were programmed into you when you were a child, or as you were growing up and stuff. So you're not your thoughts. Now, we want to talk about like solution as to, so basically, the idea is that a lot of the time you're depressed because you get into what's like a negative thought loop, right? So let's say you lose your job, for example. You start thinking that, I lost my job, I'm good for nothing. You start getting feelings of worthlessness, which would lead into you like not, having the motivation to do anything. Why would you like, update your resume, and why would you do something like that when it's like, what's the point? I'm not gonna get this job, and I'm worthless, and you're hopeless. And then it starts like feeding into one another and start going on a downward spiral, and that leads into depression. So how do we kind of like reverse that trend, right? So what would you say are some ways of like how you work with the people that you work with in terms of
basically what I would say would be, you have to start challenging your thoughts, and you have to start realizing that not everything that you think is true, even though it is your own thoughts and your mind. That doesn't mean every single thought that you have is true. And a lot of times what I like to do is, you want to give people like either like statistics or like facts to, like in the beginning, just to show them that just because you're having this thought, it doesn't mean that it's true. Like with your example with the person that lost their job, like you can actually show them like, here's a percentage of people that can get jobs right now, here's a percentage of people who can't. And just showing them that is actually like kind of like, people are like mind blown, because they realize that not all of their thoughts are true. So that's like the first step, I would say, is for people to actually realize that and start challenging themselves.
Okay, right. So you obviously want to start challenging your thoughts, and the other thing I would give is like some of practical things. So you have to even think about, why do you start having all this negative thoughts, right? So obviously, programming and what happened to you over the years is one factor of it, but like practically other factors that actually leads into having bad thoughts or negative thoughts are the following. So I'll actually name 4 things that I feel contributes to people having depression. So the 4 things is lack of physicality, and which is basically that a lot of nowadays the lifestyle that we have, we're not moving around, we're not working out, we're not exercising, and that will lead into you just being lethargic and having negative thoughts. The other thing is nutrition. I've talked a lot about that, it's really huge. But when you're putting bad food in your body, your brain is not working properly at that point, and you would start having negative thoughts. So you want to make sure that you get your nutrition straight. Another thing is stress management and proper sleep. That's another big one. Like if you're on 4 hours of sleep, you're gonna have negative thoughts, like your brain's not gonna function properly. Whereas if you had proper 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep, then you're gonna function better. Your thought patterns are gonna be better. Stress management, same thing. If you're stressed out, it's gonna be hard to be positive and think good thoughts. But when you know how to manage stress properly, you got to find your ways of managing stress. But when you manage stress properly, then you will be able to be strong enough, your brain's going to work properly, and then you'll be able to actually have positive thoughts. And then the final last piece, I would say, the big one, is just having a purpose in life. If you have no purpose, no mission, nothing, then it's just hard to be motivated. It's hard to have that inspiration. You're just not going to be inspired. And that would lead into just being depressed and just not having any hope for a future. Whereas when you have a purpose in life, when you have a mission, you're going after something, that just gives you that, that it just ignites that fire in you. And you just have like, you see people, you could see in people's eyes a lot of the time. So when you see like there's nothing there, it's dead, you can see that, there's just no purpose, no mission, nothing there. And it's so hard for people like that to be motivated, to be inspired, to feel good. And that would lead into depression. So if you have a purpose in life, and it could be, purpose could be very simple things. It doesn't have to be like you want to change the world. For some people, it could be very big. For some people, it could be something as small as just, I just want to be a good family man, take care of my family or whatever. So anything, right? But if you want to have some kind of purpose in life, and that would help you get out of any kind of depressive thoughts or anything that you have. So yeah, so besides that, anything else you want to add?
Oh my gosh, I would just say like just take care of yourself as well, and always make time for yourself, just to like clear your mind, because I know in life we can get so busy and so chaotic and there's so much things going on that it's hard to even be happy sometimes because you're just so busy, you know,
And
like you never have
overwhelmed.
time, overwhelmed, you
Yeah.
never have time to think, you never have time to enjoy like the moment, enjoy what's going on. So I think always take time for yourself, always take, you know, care of yourself, and always do things that make you happy.
Well, there you go. So yeah, those couple of things that we just want to talk about depression, because we were talking about it earlier today, and I thought that would be a good topic to just discuss. Anyways, thanks for checking out the video. And we'll see you next time.